Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us wherever in the world you are for TelerikNEXT Online, our follow-up online event to TelerikNEXT, which happened in Boston just last week. We're really excited that you're here to spend the next hour with us learning what's new and exciting happening at Telerik. Now, as always, I always make the announcement, when we get this many people together on a webcast online, there's always the chance for problems over the internet's tubes. So we've got experts standing by with the webcast system to help you with your audio and video issues. If you do have trouble, though, catching the live event, this will be recorded and on our YouTube channel shortly for on-demand viewing. So fear not, you will get to see today's content very soon. If I have not met you, or if you were not at TelerikNEXT last week, I'll be your MC for today's event. And my name is Todd Anglin. I'm Vice President for Product Strategy and Developer Relations at Telerik. And I'll be joined by a number of other presenters today to help walk you through what we're doing at Telerik and what we showed off at TelerikNEXT last week. TelerikNEXT was a big milestone for Telerik because it was our first conference in the US where we could bring all of our customers, our partners, and of course our sponsors together to interact in one place and talk about Telerik technologies and the exciting things we're doing at Telerik, and of course the exciting things we're doing now that Telerik is part of Progress. And we had a great conversation. We had lots of people on site. Beautiful venue in Boston. If you didn't get to join us this year in person, we hope you'll get to join us at a future event. Great venue, great time. Google joined us to talk about NativeScript and Angular, and thanks again to Brad Green and the Google team for coming out and joining us on the keynote stage. And we wrapped it all up with a great closing keynote from Grant Imahara, of course, of Mythbusters and ILM Star Wars fame, and Grant did a great job. Now, I share all this not to make you jealous that you weren't on site, but you should be. It was a great time. But we know that not everybody can make it out to Boston. There are a lot of competing events, a lot of things that are competing for your time. So we wanted to make sure everybody could enjoy some of that TelerikNEXT experience, which is why you're here today. And to give you an extra bonus for being part of this online event, we've got some great raffle prizes we'll be giving away at the end of today's event. We'll draw the raffle, announce winners tomorrow. But just by being here today, you are in the running for 2 Apple Watches, perhaps one of the hottest giveaways that you can find today. To be eligible for the raffle draw for the Apple Watch, you simply need to ask a great question in the live Q&A at the end of today's presentation, or ask a great question on Twitter using the TelerikNEXT hashtag. We'll be monitoring that, looking at your questions, and we'll draw a winner from each of those pools and give away these 2 great Apple Watch prizes. We also have 10 Telerik Platform Professional 5-month subscriptions, so you'll be in drawing for that just by being here in the live event today. And we'll be giving away 25 Kendo UI certification exam vouchers. And the Kendo UI certifications are something we actually announced last week at Next. And a Kendo UI certification allows you to show the world and your employers that you have mastered the Kendo UI framework and are ready to build modern, responsive, and mobile apps with HTML5. If you don't win the certification voucher during today's keynote, though I hope you do, good luck, information on the certifications where you can find your vouchers are available at telerik.com/getcertified, and we hope you'll take a look at that and start studying. Now, one of the fun and challenging things about app development is that the world is always changing. The tools, the frameworks, the runtimes, nothing stays the same for long. At Telerik, we've worked fast and hard to bring you the tools and platforms you need to keep up with this change. And as you can see, over the last decade, we've done a lot to help developers building for any screen and any runtime. Our products now contain more than 10 million lines of code running on dozens of different runtimes and platforms. But as we'll talk about today, the changing world has not stopped, and we're excited to continue to deliver new tools and innovations to you, our customers, this year, for mobility, for .NET, for HTML5, everywhere you need to build apps. This year, we are updating some of our most successful products, like Telerik UI for ASP.NET, to take full advantage of the latest .NET capabilities, some of which Microsoft showcased at Build just a week or 2 ago. All of our web tools are being actively tested against Microsoft's new Edge browser to ensure full support the moment it's released. And JustCode was the first Visual Studio productivity plugin this year to fully adopt Microsoft's modern .NET Roslyn framework, helping us deliver 30% performance improvements to you, our customers. We'll also be introducing some amazing new products. We'll look at a few of these today, but obviously there's just too much to cover even in one online keynote. There are a few things I can't tell you about just yet, but we'll talk about them through the course of today. But if you were paying attention to the TelerikNEXT news last week, you may have some hints of what's coming up. Lots of new things here, though, that we're excited to deliver. One of the things we're very excited about is the new Telerik Report server. Telerik Reporting has been a staple of the DevCraft toolbox as a way to quickly and easily create and then embed reports in your web and your desktop applications. The new report server now lets you take those reports and easily manage and publish them from a central hub. Reports can be scheduled, automatically emailed or printed, versioned, permissions can be fully managed, all done from this beautiful, responsive web portal. This has been a top request from you, our customers, and we're happy to deliver the report server in 2015. Meanwhile, we've been talking for a while now about the challenges mobility has created for app development. We've all had to shift from creating software for one platform and one form factor, that Windows desktop PC or farms of Windows desktop PCs, to creating apps that run on this. Okay, maybe we don't all have to create apps that run on a device wall, literally, but this is our reality, whether we see it every day or not. Many different platforms, many different form factors, unpredictable, and lots of new challenges. Turns out it's kind of hard to create apps that run everywhere, don't have reliable network connections, and have to access legacy data on the go. At least it was. Last year, we introduced the Telerik platform to address the challenges of mobility. From design to deployment, Telerik platform helps streamline all of the steps involved in creating successful mobile apps. And we've been really pleased with the Telerik platform's success so far. In addition to being recognized as a visionary on Gartner's 2014 Mobile Application Development Platform Magic Quadrant, quite the mouthful, Telerik platform has been busy improving and powering the apps you build. There are more than 10,000 automated tests running against Telerik platform, which is necessary for our fast, continuous delivery of new features. We deployed Telerik platform updates more than 270 times in 2014. If you do the math, that's an update every workday and some weekends, all done to continue to deliver to you new features, new performance improvements, and things that help you build your apps better and faster. We've processed more than 500,000 cross-platform app builds in the cloud with App Builder. There's a lot of app building going on out there. Our backend services are closing in on handling 1 billion requests inside of your apps. And I love this last stat. Telerik Analytics has captured over 1.4 billion hours of end-user app usage behavior. It's almost 160,000 years of time spent in the apps you've built. We've tracked app activity in literally every country on the planet to help you build better apps. Along the way, we've also helped some of the world's biggest companies tackle their mobile app development challenges. And it's consistently the simplicity of our solution and its ability to let teams focus on real business problems instead of environment configuration that drive companies like Kazan to pick Telerik platform. But even for all the success, we think we can go further to make mobile projects more successful. A recent survey by IDG, commissioned by Telerik, found that organizations still have some important challenges delivering mobile apps. In fact, among large companies, 71% cited the time it takes to deliver a mobile app as the top challenge. In many cases, these organizations are seeing delivery of a single app taking more than 6 months. Meanwhile, 66% of managers in these companies are saying that their top challenge is building apps that meet the business's requirements. Apps are being built, but they're not being used. In 2015, Telerik platform is evolving to solve these problems. Mobile app dev tools must evolve. I think we could all agree to that, but we view it as a journey that started with solving the fundamental technical challenges involved in building apps, and that is evolving to address all screens, to involve more stakeholders in the app development process with low and no-code tools, and to more directly solve the problems of the business. It's a journey that touches all future app development, not just mobile. Today, we're going to take a look at 3 pillars that underpin Telerik's next steps on this journey. Mobile. We'll take an in-depth look at how Telerik platform is embracing low-code tools to help developers build apps even faster, and how we're opening the door for closer collaboration with business stakeholders in that app development process. Open. Open source is fundamental to modern apps and important within Telerik too. We're excited to show you more of our open source framework for building truly native cross-platform apps today. And connected. Mobile apps, whether built on the web or native platforms, must securely and reliably connect to legacy data and integrate with the environments where they run. We'll look at some cool new things Telerik is doing this year to make it simple to build connected, integrated apps. It's a lot to cover. We've got a few announcements to make along the way, a recap from last week at Next. So let me invite our next presenter to the digital stage, Director of Product Management for Telerik Platform, Brandon Satrom. So Brandon, the webcast online stage is now yours.
Thanks, Todd, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Our objective with the Telerik platform is simple. We want to provide developers with the best tools and services for building hybrid, native, and mobile web apps with no compromises. That means that you're free to choose the right approach for the app you're building and not find yourself locked into a single framework, library, or device OS. And as you and tens of thousands of developers have used the platform over the last 18 months, you've told us time and time again that features like built-in simulators for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone, our cloud build and app publishing services, App Builder Live Sync, the verified plugins marketplace, and more have been essential to your success in building apps. But as more and more apps are created with the platform, and as more and more developers and organizations are targeting mobile, success alone is not enough. You need success quickly. You need speed, and the idea of helping you build apps successfully and fast is and will continue to be a large part of our focus for the Telerik platform. And it all starts with what we're about to show you. I'm delighted to announce a new feature that will help you jumpstart your next mobile app, Screen Builder. Screen Builder is a new capability of the Telerik platform and Telerik App Builder and has been designed from the ground up with a focus on fast application scaffolding and design. With Screen Builder, you can do in minutes via a visual interface what previously would have taken hours or even days. Screen Builder will be a key part of your getting started experience in the Telerik platform, meaning that you can leverage this new tool as the first step towards your next app. From the visual interface, you'll be able to quickly create new screens in your app from a collection of pre-built templates and types, connect screens and app widgets to data without having to write code, visually control navigation themes and view transitions, and best of all, once you're done, you can take your app into App Builder for testing, debugging, and additional enhancements. But enough talk. Let's take a look at Screen Builder, shall we? I'm going to hand it over now to Rob Lauer, Product Manager for the Telerik platform, to give you an in-depth demo of Screen Builder. Take it away, Rob.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm more than happy to show you all a quick demonstration of Screen Builder. So today we're going to work with our friends the Northwind Traders and their venerable SQL Server database. Now let's say they've asked us to help modernize one of their ancient VB6 desktop apps that exposes an employee directory. So I've started off here by creating a new app in the Telerik platform. I chose to initiate it with a blank Screen Builder project along with a Telerik Backend Services project that exposes the aforementioned Northwind database. Now I'm going to start piecing the Northwind app together by choosing from a variety of pre-wired view types. First, I'm going to change my blank home view to a data list view. Now, a data list view is a great way for me to expose some data from my backend system. Now, each view type has its own set of unique properties. For the data list view, I can go ahead and choose my Northwind data provider. I can also choose a content type, which you can think of as a database table. I can then expose one or more fields from this content type to our users. So I'm going to choose the employee table. It's already chosen there. I'm going to choose last name for the heading. And I'm going to choose the employee's title for the subheading. And as soon as I hit apply, you'll see my app is being regenerated and loaded in the simulator. And here's the data as I would expect. Now this is great and all, but Northwind will probably want to secure access to this employee data. So next I'm going to add a sign-in page. Now, the sign-in page is pre-wired to my backend system out of the box. So I'm going to remove this view from my app navigation because I want to force my users to either sign in or register. I can also set properties of other controls on this view, including setting an action for when a user successfully authenticates themselves. In this case, if the password matches the username, I'm going to send them back to my home view, which is my data list. Next, I'm going to create a registration view. And this, of course, will allow new Northwind employees to register to use the app. Again, we're presented with a set of properties we can change if we'd like, and again, I'm going to remove it from navigation here. And one important property is here at the bottom, the confirm button. This is how we link a successful registration back to the sign-in page. So if the registration is successful, I'm going to send them to sign in. I'm also going to add a link to my sign-in view, which essentially allows people who mistakenly go to the registration view to get back to the sign-in view without registering. Next, I'm going to go back to my sign-in view here, and I'm going to link it to my new registration view at the bottom. It's simply a checkbox. Finally, I want to make sure that the first view my users see when they open the app is my sign-in view. To do that, I go to the navigation section, and in the application startup area, I choose sign in as the initial view. All right, let's take a look at the app in the simulator. So here's my sign in screen, but I can go to register. I can type in an email address along with the ultra secure Rob and Rob for my username and password. And then I can enter my credentials and sign in. Now remember, this is an app that we took about 2 minutes to build without any code at all. Now to extend this app, I'm going to open up my project in App Builder. With App Builder, I'm able to finish coding my app, make any customizations I want, test it, debug it, gather feedback, and finally publish the app internally or to a public app store. So let me open up a view here, and you'll see the views are all separated into their own directories. You'll see that the generated code is very clean and easy to read. This is not your typical code generation tool. But what I'd like to do is make an update in App Builder and append a new style sheet that contains some of my new modern Northwind specific styling. So I'm simply going to update some new assets here. I have a style sheet and a logo. And last thing I want to do is simply make a reference to that style sheet here. Hit save. Great. Now I'd like to deploy this updated app for testing. So I'm going to use the App Builder companion app to load the app up on my device. To do so, I'm going to go to the Run menu and choose Build. I'm going to build for iOS because I happen to be using an iOS device, and make sure App Builder companion app is picked here. I'm going to hit Next, and now I'm going to go ahead and scan the app package, scan the QR code rather, and it's going to download the app package for me. There we go. There's the app just like we'd expect. Now one thing we could see right away was that I forgot to add an association to my app icon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my style sheet and I am going to make a slight change. Sure enough, my logo was commented out. Now I'm going to hit save, and now I can go back to my device and I can do a 3-finger tap on the device, and it's going to download the latest changes for me. Now this is pretty amazing because we did this in seconds without rebuilding the app at all. And this is a feature we call App Builder Live Sync. And with that, I'm going to send it back to you, Brandon.
Thanks, Rob. We're excited about the potential of Screen Builder, and our V1 is a foundation for a lot of additional work that's coming this year. To that end, I'm excited to announce that Screen Builder is live and available for all platform accounts now. So I hope that the first thing you do after this webinar is fire up a new app with this exciting new tool. Now, before we move on, let's talk a bit more about speed. Screen Builder is all about speed of development, and we think you'll wonder how you ever lived without it once you get started using it. But Screen Builder is not the only speed-minded feature we have in the platform. In fact, Rob just demoed another one that we've had in the platform from the start. That's App Builder Live Sync, which allows you to quickly deploy changes you're making to your in-development apps without the hassle of redeployment. It's a powerful feature for sure. We love Live Sync, and we know that you love it too. So we started thinking, what if we took the power of App Builder Live Sync and applied it to your in-production and published apps, to the apps that are already in the hands of your end users and customers. To that end, I'm excited to announce App Manager Live Sync, a new way to publish updates to your in-production apps quickly easily and without App Store approval. With App Manager LiveSync, you can ensure that your users don't have to wait to get the latest features and fixes for their apps. And it works with App Manager apps as well as apps deployed to the iOS, Google Play, and Windows stores. Best of all, it's available now. Let's take a look. Shall we, Rob?
Thanks, Brandon. So here I have my same Northwind Traders app that I built with Screen Builder and App Builder that is already deployed to my device. Now, in the real world, when I want to update my app, I have to fully test it, cross my fingers, and submit it to the app stores for approval. And we all know this can take days, if not weeks. Now, instead with App Manager LiveSync, I can make a change to any part of my app's codebase and push those changes to my users outside of the app stores. Now, I'm not really that happy with that old Northwind logo, so I'm going to go ahead and add an updated one. Select my new logo file here, upload it, and make a quick change to my style sheet. Now, when I first deployed this app to the app stores, I was presented with the ability to toggle App Manager LiveSync on. I've already gone through this step though, and since this app has already been deployed to my users, for subsequent updates, I can simply go to Publish, App Manager LiveSync. I choose the relevant platforms I want to publish to, and we're done. Now at this point, my app assets are being sent to our cloud servers and delivered to everyone who has the app installed already. Let's open up the app on the device and see what happens. So I have a patch available, and I can say yes, and it's going to download the update for me. And there's my new logo. Now it gets even better. When I log into Telerik App Manager, I'll be presented with a list of all of my apps. And when I click on this particular app, the change I made is represented as a new App Manager LiveSync package. This is useful because if I need to revert this change to a previous version, for example, if there's a bug in the new version, all I have to do is click on the appropriate update and say Make Active. So I've gone through and I've updated an app in seconds, not weeks. And that's App Manager LiveSync, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brandon. We think you're really going to like Screen Builder and App Manager LiveSync. Very cool features that we can't wait for you to get your hands on and give us your feedback. Let's talk about open source. You don't have to look back many years to find a completely different environment and attitude, especially in large companies, towards open source software. All but the largest projects were feared, misunderstood, and generally avoided. That's no longer the case. A 2015 survey by Black Duck shows the raw explosion in open source participation in projects, from fewer than 200,000 open source projects in 2007 to more than 1.8 million in 2015. The popularity of open source has exploded, and enterprise has opened its arms to open source projects. 66% of the surveyed companies in this survey now consider open source options before ever considering a proprietary option. As a sign of the times, even Microsoft has embraced open source, making all of .NET open source last year. I don't think any of us would have guessed that a few years before that. If open source is, of course, very important at Telerik too. Many of our new projects have large open source components, including Kendo UI Core, JavaScript UI library, and the new Sitefinity Project Feather for building lightweight MVC Sitefinity-based applications. Our engineers contribute to and build on many other open source projects, including Uglify.js, Apache Cordova, jQuery UI, and of course AngularJS. While we make money selling software, we are deeply invested in improving open source tools and frameworks. We were also happy to announce last week that the powerful decompilation engine from our popular free .NET decompiling tool, JustDecompile, will also now be available under an open source license. Just one more way we are opening up and contributing to the open source .NET community. What's interesting is why companies are choosing open source software. From the same Black Duck survey, the top 3 reasons companies said they were using open source were better quality, reduced lock-in, and bigger communities. We couldn't agree more. Projects that are going to change the world are open source. Which brings us to NativeScript. NativeScript is one of the most innovative and complex projects we've tackled at Telerik, and in my opinion, it's amazing. NativeScript is a new framework that lets you create truly native cross-platform apps using the skills you already have: JavaScript, CSS, and XML. You create one app and deploy it to iOS, Android, and later this year, Windows phones as well. And naturally, it's 100% open source. With NativeScript, we're putting native on an equal footing with web and hybrid. By reusing the skills of the web, development organizations can drastically reduce the switching costs of moving between web, hybrid, and native projects. And that will let organizations openly encourage requirements-driven decisions when choosing the best approach for an app. And with Telerik Platform's built-in support for NativeScript, developers can even reuse the same tools like Screen Builder and App Manager LiveSync, which we saw earlier, to build and deploy all of their apps. The magic of NativeScript is in its ability to expose 100% of the underlying native APIs to the JavaScript code in the apps you build. There is no native API that you cannot call with JavaScript in a NativeScript app. Of course, no one wants to call the native APIs for every platform with JavaScript, so NativeScript modules provide a unified cross-platform API that abstracts the various differences between iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. And when it's time to style your app, and this is one of my favorite features, it's plain old CSS. You use CSS and take control over styling natively rendered UI elements. You really feel like a wizard when you start working with NativeScript, at least I know I do when I'm building these native apps. So let's see some NativeScript in action. TJ Van Tol, developer advocate at Telerik and resident NativeScript wizard, is going to be our demo driver today. So TJ, let me give you the digital stage to show us some of the cool things you can do with NativeScript. TJ, it's yours.
Awesome, thanks Todd. Now, Northwind Traders had a lot of success with the app that Rob showed for managing their employee data, so they wanted to move on to build something a little more hip and a little social app that their employees could use to chat, and that's what you're seeing over here. Now, Northwind went with NativeScript because it lets them build a truly native UI. You can see that this app uses an iOS UI button there. It's an iOS activity indicator. This is a UI table view, so you get the nice iOS momentum scrolling here and really nice performance, iOS page transitions, and so forth, all of which makes this app feel really great. Now, NativeScript also gives Northwind the ability to reuse skills that they already know. So if you look through the code that makes up this app, you'll see standards-based JavaScript, a really easy to read markup language for defining UI elements, and CSS that's being used to style this app. Now, one of the things we've been working on is improving the development experience in NativeScript. So let's say I want to make some changes to this app. Maybe I'm back at the login screen. I want to change how this login button works. So all I have to do is head over to my XML, and I got to find where that login button is defined, which is here. I can see that it has an ID of login, and since I already know how CSS works, I actually already know how to select this. And I'll give this a font size, bump up the font size a little bit just to see how it looks. Now, after I do this, all I have to do is run a single command, tns run, which I've actually wired up to a keyboard shortcut in Sublime Text to make this workflow a little quicker. And you can see that button looks a little bit big, so I'm going to turn it down, and I also want to see what this button looks like in green. And I'll send that out as well. But the key here is that this quick workflow makes this sort of experimentation within NativeScript really fast, really easy, and quite frankly, a lot of fun. Now, and remember too, this is, I think, especially awesome because this is a native app, right? There's no HTML here. This isn't a DOM button here. This is a UI button. This is a UI. This is an iOS native control. This is something you'd normally have to go into Xcode and go into the property inspector in order to change. But in NativeScript, you're changing these things with CSS, which is just cool. Now, another improvement we've made is related to logging. And you actually might have already noticed this. You can see a few logging statements here. I also have a few other ones in this app here. I have one when the register button gets clicked down here. So if I click this, you can see it appear down here. But we've also made this logging better when things go wrong. So let's try to use a method that unfortunately does not exist, the TJ method, which unfortunately we have not added to NativeScript core quite yet, but I'm going to try to call it anyways. You can see when this app loads, of course, as you'd expect, it's going to blow up here. But what I get in my console here is a really nice stack trace. It points me exactly at where the problem is. It can't find that variable TJ. I also get the line number here. It tells me exactly where things go wrong. So it's easy for me to find this bug, fix it up, and redeploy to get on my way. Now, this debugging is nice, but we can actually take things a step further. Now, the NativeScript CLI has had a debug command for a while now, and it brings up this web inspector that you're seeing here, but we've really polished up the functionality for 1.0. Now, you might know that NativeScript makes all native APIs available to JavaScript, but if not, you can verify that by just starting to type in the web inspector here and get some nice autocomplete to see what APIs are available. You got the UI ones on iOS, you got the NS ones, there's a bunch of other ones as well. So you could start to tinker with these things, use this console to figure out how they work, and they're all available, but NativeScript also has these modules that abstract away all that platform-specific stuff, and you can use those from here too. So for instance, one of the things I could do is I'm going to go ahead and navigate. Oops, not flashlight. I'm going to go to my frame module and navigate to, actually I think it's views.maps. It's a little mapping feature that Northwind has been working on. You can see the navigation that happened on my device over there. And I could just start to play with things. Like for instance, I could take the coordinates here. I want to see what happens if I change the latitude here. I'll change that. And I think this put me somewhere, yeah, I'm in the middle of the desert here. But you can get an idea of how being able to manipulate your app, and remember, again, this is a native app that you're manipulating here, makes development really quite powerful in terms of what you can change, what you can experiment with, and it really makes the development experience quite powerful. And so between the faster loading times, the console logging, the integrated web inspector, I think you'll find that NativeScript 1.0 really truly does provide a fantastic development experience. Now, all this is cool, but I know that while I am running this demo here from an Apple device, from a Mac, that not everybody is developing on a Mac. So one of the important goals we've had with NativeScript from the start is to provide this amazing development experience regardless of the platform that you develop on. So with that in mind, the Telerik platform has been completely updated to support NativeScript apps, which means you can use our backend services for things like cloud data, for things like file storage. You can use our analytics tooling. You can use App Builder, our in-browser editor, which will let you build NativeScript apps from any OS. So you can build from Windows or you can build from Linux. Or if you're on Windows, you can also use App Builder for Visual Studio. What you see here is the exact same Northwind social app, just loaded in Visual Studio instead of Sublime Text. Now, the App Builder Visual Studio extension provides a lot of functionality for NativeScript apps. Everything from small niceties like icon management and setting file management, to some really powerful tooling like the ability to build iOS apps on Windows machines. But my absolute favorite feature is the NativeScript companion apps, and we've made some really cool updates to it. So to use it, all I have to do to get my app from Visual Studio here to my devices is I have to go to the App Builder menu here. I have to click this Build in Cloud option here, pick my Android device. I'll click the companion app. Now I'll show my Android device here on the screen so you can see what I'm looking at. What I have to do is I have to click this Scan menu in the drawer here, which brings up the integrated QR reader in my app, and scan the device I see on the screen, which is going to load my app up here. And I'll go back and I'm going to do, while that's loading, I'm going to do the exact same thing for iOS so I could show both of these at the same time. So I'll generate this. I'll bring over my iOS device so you can see that one as well over here. I have this QR scanner option in the iOS app, so I'll give this a second to finish loading. Scan this as well. And now if I bring over both devices at once, you can see the app on both. Now, what's amazing about this is not that just that you don't have to worry about things like the Android SDK or Xcode, but that you're building these truly native apps with truly native UIs from a single code base. Now, notice, for instance, that this Android app feels right at home in Android world because it's a native Android app. So I can log in, I get these native Android elements. I can use, for instance, the hardware back button. I have this nice material design look to this app. Now, when I want to make changes to this app, I can actually use the same App Builder Live Sync functionality that Rob showed. So what I do is I go back to my app. I'll actually go into that same CSS file I was in earlier, and I'll change the login button. This time, let's try a background color of yellow. Now, after I make this change, I have to go up to this App Builder menu and tell it to synchronize with the cloud. That makes the files available for the companion apps to use. I actually have this wired up to a keyboard shortcut, but just wanted to show it explicitly running here. You have to give it a minute to actually sync up. There it goes. And then I can go back to my devices. I can perform a 3-finger tap and hold on my iOS device to sync the changes. And on my Android device over here, I have to go to the notification drawer and click this sync button up here to fire off the sync there. You'll see that the iOS device is loaded, and that's all I needed to do to see that change on my iOS device. And the Android device is loading up with that yellow button as well. Now, one update we've recently made to these companion apps is a far better debugging experience when things go wrong. So let's go back to my app here and make another mistake. I'll again try to use the TJ method here. Now I'll go into the app builder menu here and again have to synchronize this file up to send it so that it's available for the companion apps to use. Now when that finishes, I'll actually get ready for this. I'll bring up my Android device, get ready to sync things up. There we go. I will sync that. And I will sync on my iOS device as well. Now remember that I created a mistake. I am trying to use a method that does not exist, so these apps are going to crash, but watch how they do and how helpful they are. Now on iOS I get this nice push notification that clearly tells me the problem and gives me a nice stack trace so I can look. And I also get that same stack trace on Android as well. You can see I'm clearly told that TJ is not defined. I get a line number that points me in the right direction, and I get these nice sync buttons. Here it is on Android, here it is on iOS, so that after I patch up this change, it's really easy for me to refresh my app and get on my way. So to wrap up, NativeScript is really committed to providing this fantastic development experience and to provide it regardless of whether you want to use NativeScript from the CLI or to use it from the Telerik platform. Now, with that in mind, I have one final announcement to make. I talked earlier about how the Telerik platform has been completely updated to support NativeScript, and that support actually also applies to something else we announced today, Telerik Screen Builder. So if I go back out here into my account and I go to create an app, if I choose a native app for NativeScript, you'll see that as of today, you can also choose to create blank NativeScript apps from Screen Builder as well. So this is something that I encourage everyone here to try out. Try it out, build some hybrid apps, build some native apps, try it out, let us know what you think. So with that in mind, I'll turn things back over to Todd. Todd?
Thanks, DJ. And I hope you enjoyed seeing some of that stuff in action. It's all very, very cool. We're excited about NativeScript, obviously. We've been working on the core framework for nearly 2 years. It's my pleasure to re-announce, as we did last week at TelerikNEXT, that NativeScript version 1 is officially available, and you can download it directly from our GitHub project page, or use it in the Telerik platform, of course, grab it via NPM. We're far, far from done. This is just the beginning with NativeScript. As an open source project, we're eager to work with the community to continue to extend and enhance NativeScript as we go forward. We have big plans at Telerik in 2015 for NativeScript, including full support for Windows 10, working closely with Microsoft to do this, framework enhancements like animations that give those NativeScript apps that extra polish and interactiveness, and of course more modules that expose native APIs in a simple cross-platform abstraction. And finally, we recognize that for any serious app, there's a need for a larger application framework, something that helps you put all the pieces together. And that's why we're excited to share that we've been working with the AngularJS team at Google to make it possible to build native NativeScript apps using Angular 2. And last week at TelerikNEXT, Brad Green joined us on stage to talk about some of the things that are being done in the Angular project to now make it possible to split apart your application code running on a separate thread and then render your application in a number of different ways, including a native application that's powered by NativeScript. We're still early in the process of collaborating with Google to make this happen, but we're looking forward to having feedback from you, from the community, and working closely again with Google and the rest of the developer community to make these integrations possible so you can use technologies you know to build the apps that you want. While we're still in the early days with NativeScript, developers at many companies have already started to work with it to build powerful cross-platform applications, and we expect many more to begin as we cross this 1.0 milestone. We've also already seen some very cool apps created, like this one called Amru, which helps pet owners find local pet sitters when they need to travel. This app actually won the Telerik Hackathon as a hybrid app last year, but has now been converted to a NativeScript app, and just a very cool example of what can be done. The developers of this app were at TelerikNEXT sharing their experiences, but they'd love to share more of it online if you're interested to see how they did that. We'll soon be publishing an app called Expensity, which uses NativeScript to build an expense reporting app, Full source code will be made available, and you can see some of the great looking screens here showing off native Telerik UI data visualizations in action in this app inside of NativeScript. And finally, an app that a lot of people were using last week at TelerikNEXT, and one you can still find in the app stores, is the official TelerikNEXT conference app, which is a NativeScript app. You can download it from the iOS, iTunes, and of course the Google Play Store, so check it out on your own device. But we look forward to hearing your feedback about these apps, all of the apps you've seen here, and seeing what you build with NativeScript and collaborating with you on our GitHub project page to make NativeScript an even better framework for building native apps. We've already covered a lot today in this online event: mobile, open. Let's shift gears and talk about one more topic: connected. While we'd all love to have the opportunity to build greenfield apps all the time, free from legacy constraints and complex, often burdensome integrations, that's not the environment in which most apps get built. The real landscape of app development more often feels like this. It's far from greenfield. Apps must be built to fit into existing complex environments. They must integrate with legacy databases and systems of record. They must look and feel consistent with the other apps and that the end users are already trained to use. And we talked earlier today with Brandon about moving from success to speed. And across the Telerik portfolio, we are innovating in new ways to help you deliver apps faster in these complex enterprise environments. One way we've done that for years is by providing UI themes and widgets that help you quickly build apps that match the look and feel of the other apps your end users are already trained to use. The classic Office theme has always been one of our most popular across web and desktop applications. And as you can see, we've regularly evolved that theme to help your app stay modern and current. Our promise is to help you deliver amazing app experiences even if you don't have a professional designer on your team. That promise continues with Kendo UI, where our professional designers have already handcrafted 14 unique pixel-perfect themes that can be easily applied to any project. Lately, we've been building themes that help your apps blend into an increasing number of existing applications and style guides. We have themes from Microsoft's Metro Styles, Google's Material Design, Bootstrap, and recently themes for SAP Fiori 2. I'm happy to re-announce from the last week at Next that we have also added an out-of-the-box theme for Microsoft's Office 365. At Build, Microsoft announced the Office 365 Dev Program, which now makes Kendo UI for O365 available for free to developers building and customizing O365 apps. We work closely again with Microsoft to customize Kendo UI and make it the perfect UI framework for O365 and SharePoint development. Kendo UI for O365 is available via the Office Dev Program, but the Office 365 theme you see here will be available in all future Kendo UI distributions. That's UI. Let's talk about data. One of the hardest things to do in modern app development is get data, existing data, from your data center to your app. There's a huge chasm to cross that usually requires lots of custom code and server configuration to create and secure web services. You can spend easily as much time or more time building that layer than actually building the app itself. And if apps are going to be developed quickly with speed, this chasm must be bridged efficiently. The Telerik platform solves this problem today with our backend services data connectors. Data connectors help you expose data from your existing databases to your apps, mobile or otherwise, via secure, RESTful web service APIs that are automatically generated by Telerik platform. It's a zero-code solution to get a powerful service API for your data, dramatically reducing the time it takes to build an app. Today's data connectors support data in SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, and Postgres, and require a small IIS data link server to create that link between Telerik platform and your data center. As part of the Progress family, we are pleased to share that we've adopted the powerful Progress Data Direct drivers and technology to make Telerik platform data connectors more robust and capable. With Data Direct under the covers, the data link server can now run on Windows and Linux servers in your data center, and the list of supported data sources expands from the 4 we offer today to more than 20 supported by Data Direct. From Progress OpenEdge to MongoDB to Google Analytics, you can now easily connect the data you have wherever it lives to your apps. With just a little configuration, you have a complete RESTful API for any of these data sources. We are launching today with support for the original 4 providers, now powered by DataDirect, and over the coming weeks and months, we'll be lighting up full support for this complete list. So let's pull it all together. Let's look at how Telerik tools help you build apps that look right and connect to the data you have. And to do that, we have Burke Holland, Director of Developer Relations at Telerik, to show us how this works. And Burke, as our last demo presenter today, let's make it good. Take the digital stage and show us some great demos.
Thank you, Todd. So our Northwind traders now have a new mobile app. They also have a hip new social app that's mobile as well, but they also want to modernize and have modernized their existing desktop app, which is still the primary way that they interact with their systems. This is the primary way they use their database. You can see there's these gorgeous maps over here. They're interactive the way you expect them to be. Probably should do some more business in Russia here. But what's interesting here is that not only is this app fully HTML5, not only is it fully cross-browser, but it is also fully responsive, as you can see as I move the screen here. And the items stack on top of each other, and eventually the top bar becomes a drop-down, which is really, really nice. Now, this site is built with UI for ASP.NET MVC, which is built on the industry-leading Kendo UI controls. Now, one of the things that I want to take a look at here is the data, because right now we have a mobile app and we have a social app. We also have a desktop app. So the mobile app and the social app have an API, which just means a way of connecting to the data. And this application has a way of connecting to the data as well. And if we look inside Visual Studio here, we just expand this and let's take a look at the actual project structure itself here. You'll see a familiar site. Down here in the files, we'll have an entity framework database. And that database is pulling data out and putting data into models and then returning it. So connecting directly to the database. Look at what's already happened here. We have one API for the mobile, one API for the desktop. If we create another application, we probably have another way of connecting to the database. And at this point, we're already creating or incurring technical debt and changing the database. If we change the database, all of these APIs have to change, and it's going to become a maintenance nightmare. So what would be even better is if we had one RESTful API for all of the Northwind applications. And even better than that would be if we didn't even have to write it. How is that even possible? Let me show you. I'm going to jump over here to the Telerik backend services. I've already created a backend services project. Now, backend services comes with all sorts of nice goodies for you: responsive images, cloud data, cloud code. But what about apps that are not born in the cloud? Northwind Traders has an existing SQL Server. It's probably an old SQL Server 2000 that people are just terrified to even touch for fear of breaking it. So what do we do about that? Well, that's where the new data connectors come in. So I'm just going to go ahead and add data connectors to my project here. Now, once the data connectors get added to the project, I can create a new data connector. So I'm going to come over here to data connectors and say create a data connector here. And I'm going to use an existing data link server. This is one data link server, a SQL server that we have set up at Telerik. Data link is a simple download that you run and put on any IIS server on premise, and then you can connect to your SQL Server database. So let's give this server a name. We'll just call this Old SQL. And I'm going to give it an IP, specify the IP address rather. So we'll just specify the IP. And then the next thing that we need is the connection string. So I'll put that in as well. So here's the connection string. There we go. Let's go ahead and just test this and see. So our test connection succeeded. Let me go ahead and save this. There we go. And now we have a new SQL Server, or the existing SQL Server, and we can actually connect to this and expose this SQL Server as types the way that backend services normally does. And with that, we get this gorgeous REST API. So let's go ahead and do that. I just need to come to types over here, and I'll create a type from a data connector. You can see there's the SQL Server, and here are all of the objects that are inside of that SQL Server. So I'm just going to come down, scroll down a bit, and find employees. There we go. And I can even change the name, so I can clean up my API as I go here. And you'll notice that data connectors automatically detect that employee ID is the primary key on this table. So very smart, knows about referential integrity in your database. Now I'm just going to select the first name here. And we'll select the last name as well. And I'm going to come down and save this. And now we have the employees type here, and you can see it's already pulling in data from the database. So the next thing I want to do is actually connect to this data from my application. And there's several different ways that I can do that. There's a simple REST API that I can use, but there's also SDKs for just about every platform that you can think of. So we have .NET, Windows Universal, iOS, and Android native. I'm going to use the hybrid and web, which is beautiful because not only does it work for hybrid mobile apps and for web apps, but it also works for NativeScript as well. It's just a wonderful way to work with the backend services. So all I need to do is pull in this CDN reference here. I could additionally add this as a local install or a local JavaScript file, or if I was using Node, I could pull it in as an NPM library. It's available and works on Node as well. So let's go ahead and alter the project to do that. I'm going to come here in the layout page and just add in this CDN reference here. There we go. We're adding in this CDN reference. Let me go ahead and just remove this trailing script tag. And then the next thing we need to do is just initialize the connection to the database. And we'll do that in the page where we want to actually do this. So let's go ahead and find that spot. All right. And then we'll just go ahead and create a new connection to the backend services here. Okay, and then we need the API key so that we know which instance of the backend services we're connected to. We can grab that from right over here in the Telerik platform, right there, API keys. So let's just pick this up here and pop it back in the initialization statement. Now, the great thing about backend services is that it works seamlessly with the Telerik UI controls. So scroll down here and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to alter this list view of employees that we have that's running on the side. Let's find it. There it is. And I'm going to pull out the existing code. The existing code connects to an employees list method, which is a controller action. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this all the way out. Just move it all together. There we go. Now, I'm just going to say data source here. And I'm going to, oops, let's fix this. Thank you, IntelliSense. I don't need your help. Let's just call this custom. And then we'll say that the type is everlive. And we'll say that the transport is a new type name equals employees, because that's what we called it. There we go. Let me just fix the spacing here. Can't stand to have bad spacing. And let me add back in the arrow there. There we go. Perfect. Now, all we've done here is take out a couple lines of code, put a new couple lines in, and this is everything that the UI controls need to know to connect to and read from the backend services. So with that change, let's hop back over to the application, and I'm just going to go ahead and refresh the page here. And you should notice, pay attention to this side column here. We're going to start pulling the data back from there instead of from the SQL Server database. It should be coming in from backend services. Now, you'll notice that there's a couple things that look a little weird, right? So we have Nancy DeValio, but her title is undefined. Her phone number is undefined. This nice tooltip that pops up is reading undefined. That's because I didn't include those fields in the API. Now, normally, when you have to alter an API, you have to change the code, you have to redeploy the code, you have to test the code, you have to troubleshoot any bugs with the code. But with the Telerik platform, it's just point and click. So let's do that. Let me jump over here to our types. We'll select employees, and then we'll just select edit the structure. And now we can edit the structure of this API by just simply adding fields. So we say we want the home phone, the notes is where the bio is, and then we'll add in the title as well. Let me go ahead and scroll down and save this. Refresh. And you'll see that we're now getting the title, we're getting the home phone number, and we've even got the bio. So we tweaked an API without making any changes whatsoever, which is amazing. No code means no deployment, and that means no bugs. Those are the new data connectors in the Telerik platform, powered by Data Direct from Progress Software. Stop writing more APIs and let the Telerik platform do it for you so that you can focus on building the next generation of applications. Todd?
Thanks, Burke. Over the last hour, we've seen a lot of new and exciting things at Telerik. NativeScript, Screen Builder, App Manager Live Sync, Data Direct data connectors, Kendo-UI responsive websites, Kendo-UI for O365, a report server, and there's many more things going on at Telerik now that we didn't have time to include in today's keynote. Things like Telerik Data Sync for offline data support in your mobile apps connected to Telerik's data services and Telerik platform. New improvements in our .NET tools across the DevCraft suite. All kinds of new things happening at Telerik, and we hope you'll stay plugged in and engaged in our future webcasts, in our blogs, on our Telerik Developer Network of great articles coming from our advocates. Lots of great things happening that are always going by, but we had a great time showing you today some of the things that we showed off last week at TelerikNEXT, and we hope that you will now join us in the live Q&A where we can go over even more of your questions in a live format. For those of you that have to drop off, thank you again for joining us in this online event and for giving us an hour to show you some of these things that we're very excited about. We hope you'll go to Telerik.com, download some of these products, go to Telerik platform, try out some of these improvements, and we'll see you online for our next online webcast. Thank you very much. For everyone else, stay tuned. There'll be a small blip as the live Q&A system fires up so we can answer your questions. We'll take as many as we can before we have to shut down today. So there'll be a little bit of a silence, a little bit of a blip, and then we'll start taking your live questions. Log them in that Q&A manager, and let's see if we can share some more knowledge.